We are the restaurant brokers, and we sell restaurants.
We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm over a decade ago.
Atlanta, Georgia was our starting point, but our brand is spreading nationwide. We define restaurant brokerage and help buyers just like these.
Our dream, our goal, open up a restaurant, loving life, serving people breakfast and lunch, and then enjoying the rest of the day with them and ourselves.
Buying an existing restaurant, leasing a closed restaurant space, or purchasing a restaurant franchise. We help buyers satisfy their appetite for acquisition.
I'm part of a husband and wife team with this fella.
Working with my wife has been a lot of fun. The ultimate goal for everybody here is to make this work. And because we have different strengths, we bring different angles to the deal.
The process begins with our powerhouse website, WeSellRestaurants.com, where buyers sign online confidentiality agreements and browse restaurants for sale.
Then we send buyers undercover to check out a restaurant and decide if it's the right one for them.
Buyers get our proprietary business analysis tool with all the financial details on the business for sale.
After studying the restaurant inside and out, it's back to our office.
We're deal makers. We write contracts and negotiate terms for buyers and sellers. That's why we sell more restaurants than any other firm in the nation. We are the restaurant brokers. Our name says it all. I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Eric Gagnon, and we sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm, We Sell Restaurants, over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
That's not all. We're also on your radio once a week with the leading authorities in the restaurant business, talking about subjects trending in this exciting industry. Tweet your own questions on the topic while we're on the air to our Twitter handle. It's @SellRestaurants. Post on our Facebook page, facebook.com/WeSellRestaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have any comments or any ideas about the shows, feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is Eric, E-R-I-C, @WeSellRestaurants.com.
Today, we're going under the bun and beyond the basic burger to understand why this iconic American food just keeps on growing. Fast casual leaders, fast food giants, and great chefs keep delivering more twists on this all-American classic. Today, we're talking to those who can explain the public's fascination with and insatiable appetite for the burger. As our first panelist, we have John Abdo, the president CEO of My Burger USA. He has been the chief burger enthusiast at My Burger since 2006 after taking over the operations of his parents' lunchtime burger joint after graduating from the University of Notre Dame. Working to refine his family's burger business model, he knew he had to start from the ground up and learn every angle of running the restaurant. After 5 years, it was time to expand the brand, and John opened the second My Burger restaurant in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 2011 with the thought of capturing the Midwest better burger market. Currently, he oversees all aspects of the small chain and is looking towards building a formidable, sustainable, and successful burger business in the Midwestern part of the country. Hey, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We are also joined today by George Frangos. He is a restaurateur that brought an immense amount of restaurant industry knowledge to the success of opening Farm Burger. Having previously worked as a part of the Concentric Hospitality Group management team as an owner-operator of Victory 96 State Street in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, 3 years spent at two of the nation's first and finest locavore restaurants, Peter Hoffman's Manhattan Institution, Savoy, and Nora Poulin's restaurant, Nora in Washington, D.C., Frangos developed a commitment to seasonality and sustainability. We're so glad you're with us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And our third guest is David Rev Ciancio. He is the senior creative professional with 19 years of experience in marketing and business development. He graduated from Michigan State with a Bachelor of Arts in Telecommunications and then moved to New York. He's currently the Director of Marketing for Burger Maker, a family-owned and operated gourmet ground beef processor located in Carlstadt, New Jersey. Burger Maker's high-quality ground beef can be found in grocery stores and restaurants under the brand name Schweid & Sons, which Rev helped to create and launch. His role is to take his passion for burgers, match it with his years of experience in branding and hospitality marketing. Restaurants like Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Fuddruckers, BurgerFi, and Tasty Burger use their ground beef. In 2012, he founded and produced the first ever New York Burger Week, It's now an annual 7-day celebration of burgers happening in New York City, South Florida, and Charleston, South Carolina, where every week features a series of burger-themed events, including the annual New York Burger Crawl. He also owns Idle Hands Bar in New York City's East Village, where he serves as the CMO and beer sommelier and oversees all marketing and public relations, managing social media, promotions, and the bar's website. Rev has also appeared on numerous different television shows, including the Learning Channel's Cake Boss, where he and Idle Hands were featured in an episode. Rev, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I like burgers.
I can hear that. It sounds like everybody likes burgers. There's just no getting around it. Everywhere you turn, there's somebody developing a better burger, a different burger. So we want to ask you guys, and John, maybe you can kick us off. What's the next trend in burgers? Have we seen it all yet?
I think what I'm seeing is it's a lot of back to basics. I think a lot of people have been making some fantastic burgers with some pretty crazy ingredients out there. But I think what people really enjoy is just a very well cooked, great products on the burger, and just your standard, burger with cheese. That's the best products that you can find on the street, because that's what they remember eating as a kid. And I think nostalgia plays a huge part in that.
George, you want to chime in on that as well?
Yeah, and I'd agree to some point. I think at the end of the day, we're all about making that perfect or superlative kind of burger that just satisfies that really good beef flavor. And I think if there's a bigger trend, it's really to the sourcing of that beef and where it's coming from, and that sort of good meat flavor beyond just all the creative toppings and ingredients.
So, Rev, what do you think? Because I think George is onto something there. Everybody's talking about food chain and where things are being sourced. Is that the big trend in burgers, or do you have a different point of view?
I definitely think that the sourcing of meat is going to be a trend. There is a limited capacity for what can be served from that. I mean, as you know, a farmer only can have so many cattle that they can produce from. And the nation and even the world's appetite for burgers is much larger than a few local farms. So while I do think that's a trend, I think the overarching trend is more of a specification in the better burger category. Like, I think we all grew up where our burger was ground beef, right? And we didn't really question what was the fat to lean, or what were the muscles in it, or what was the blend. It was hamburger, right? And you cooked it, you put cheese, and you put a bun, and that was it. I think the real trend that we're going to see in 2015 is more about specifics of the burger. So that could be local sourcing, it could be grass-fed, it could be whole muscle blends, it could be aging. And I think that we're going to see, especially at the food service side of the business, a real specialty towards what's happening with the beef itself.
Interesting.
That's good information. I want to change the subject a little bit about, you drive to your local neighborhood, and I was having to drive the other day, and there's a new burger chain, never heard of it. So I don't know if it's a one shop or a franchise I've never heard of or something, and not even 500 yards down the road, there's a Five Guys. There's so many burger chains right now. So how does a smaller burger chain stay competitive in such a massive industry right now? George, you want to take that one to start with?
Sure. I think for us, and even looking at my burger is there's sort of a love-hate relationship with the word chain, but we really do try to make sure all of our restaurants, even though we're now in Atlanta, Asheville, and Berkeley, California, really connected to neighborhoods and communities and the people that surround us. So our biggest thing is how do we recreate that and get a foothold into our community, and are just not something new that's the same popping up on every corner.
That is a great answer, and I think it sounds like you take that burger mission pretty seriously. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that when people are going out to look for a burger, I think it's a decision that they make that, hey, tonight is burger night. And there are a ton of options out there. And what really helps separate the smaller chains, and sometimes it's a good word and sometimes it's a bad word, is the service aspect of it and the neighborhood aspect of it, of really being a part of the neighborhood that your restaurant operates in. And that's something that I think any chain that's looking to expand, or even if they just have a few of them and they're happy with that, they're going to be more successful if they're really catering to the customers that live in their neighborhood and they understand that each one is unique, that some neighborhoods have a different palate than others, even if they're in the same city. And you're definitely going to have a different client base, even if it means one has younger kids and one has, some older seniors that live close. Really catering to who is around you and actively being a part of that community.
And Rev, what about you? You're in New York City. I mean, there's everything over there. What do you see from that perspective?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm a little shocked. I thought every night was burger night. I didn't get the memo, so I'm going to have to look for that one. But no, I agree with you guys. I think that, service and community is a huge differentiator. But I think there's also a mix of, in the burger world, a bit of wow. Right, so if you can walk in the door and you've seen on Instagram or social media this burger that has 94 layers to it and some crazy meat, and you're eating with your eyes before you even walked in the door. I think that's going to set each of these places needs to have something unique about what they're doing from the food service side of it, and then it has to be met with great customer service, and it has to be great with some level of community. Because like I said, burger night. You don't eat burgers for health. You eat burgers because they're fun and they're delicious and they remind you of like the backyard or the home or your family. And so eating a burger is an experience. And so I think that at the restaurant level, there needs to be an experience around that, wow factor in that community.
Okay, so now I'm going to throw out a challenge question to you guys. This one is cheese, over or under? Where does the cheese go in relationship to the burger? Rev, you want to kick us off with that, and why?
This is a hot button issue for me. I believe that for decades and decades and decades, America and now the rest of the world eats their hamburger the wrong way. Cheese is meant to be on the bottom. There's two reasons for that. And the first is, ask yourself, how often do you eat a hamburger without cheese? It's essential to the build. It's part of it. So why not get that taste closer to your tongue? When you bite it, you want to taste the cheese, right? That's number one. Number two, and for more of a scientific nature, if you put the cheese underneath the patty and above the bun, it's going to protect your bun integrity. And nobody wants to eat a burger where it just falls apart in your hands or the juice drips down your hands and you ruin that bottom bun. You ruin the burger experience. If you put the cheese there, it actually insulates the bun from absorbing all the sauce. So it tastes better and it's scientifically a better burger.
Okay.
What about the look, though? It looks better with the cheese on top.
I know.
Listen, we have to make a few sacrifices here, and I tell you, is a better experience. And look, if you're looking at a color palette, you can still have the greens and the reds on top, and you put the yellow on bottom, and you created a little burger rainbow.
Okay, I heard somebody trying to weigh in there. Was that George or John?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, George.
I thought that was really interesting. It was very well thought out in detail. That maybe you've sold me to at least check it out a little bit. But I would always just say on top because I like that melted part kind of curling around the side.
Okay, George is old school. The cheese is on top.
But I do like this concept of the cheese there absorbing the juices and the runoff to keep the integrity of your bottom bun from just sagging up and disintegrating away.
So we could start a whole, trend on Twitter, cheese on top or bottom, hashtag here. John, what do you think?
I thought it was a very good case for putting cheese on the bottom. I've never thought about it that scientifically, and it makes sense, but I'm still going to be eating all my burgers with the cheese on top and melted for sure.
Okay.
Well, I like the answer. Since we're on the topic of toppings, let's talk about that a little bit. The customer taste is changing. You go to every burger restaurant, independent chain, everything. There's so many customizations, so many options, so many different flavor profile that you can see. How do you keep up with the ever-changing customer, taste out there? George, you want to start us up?
It is a little bit of a challenge. I think at some points we look at what we do and say, gee, how can we offer half as many toppings as we do? But we've created what we've created. But I think options are good. We don't limit people. We have a lot of suggestions on our menu to different creations, but inevitably just leave that up to the customer. But our toppings, we try to change things seasonally and through the year, so it represents anything that might be local and fresh. But there's always, I think, once you open the door to having more toppings, everybody has their idea of what we should also have and also have and also have. So it's hard to put the stop button on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's hard to pull back. What do you think, Rev?
Listen, I'm a fan of customization. I'm a fan of giving the people what they want. I would also tell you that my favorite burger of all time has cheese and onions. So it's one of those things. I think you walk a dangerous line. You don't want to get to that scenario where the customer sits down and it takes them 2 hours to sift through the menu item and order. There's some argument for simplification, but I think some level of choice and customization is important for the experience. But certainly, if you want to get to the intense burger lover, you need to have some of that.
So, John, what's the level of customization at your chain, and how do you weigh in on that?
Well, I think it's kind of a two-way street. One is you always want to offer up some preset burger standards that are going to be there on the menu every single day, and they're never going to go away. And those are the ones that a lot of people just continually go back to. One thing that we find is somebody comes in and they get our original with cheese on the recommendation of one of our cashiers, and that's the only burger that they ever get from then on, because they just fall in love with it, and they're like, this is the only burger that I want. And then sometimes we have customers that come in and they get a different burger every single time because they want to just work their way around the menu, and they just want to explore all of those different flavors that we have for them. And we have to continually think of new things to put on the burgers, as crazy as they may seem at points, to really satisfy those adventurous customers, while always making sure that we've got those standards that are going to appeal to the core base of the burger lovers out there.
So I want to ask all three of you to sort of weigh in on this one because, for years we just had these very basic, boring, we had the fast food franchise that was offering, you could call it a burger, I guess, this kind of frozen patty that was on the grill. And then it seems like in the past 5 years there's just been this explosion of going after that better burger, and we see it all the way up to celebrity chefs and, $100 foie gras burgers. So what is it that caused burgers to become so fashionable in each of your opinion? And Rev, you're kind of a marketing guy. Maybe you want to take this one first.
I think the hamburger for a long time, suffered from this like junk food reputation that was driven, by its association with those, super fast food frozen type burgers. And, but it still appealed to people on that level where like, oh, I eat a hamburger again because I'm celebrating something, or, today I don't care about my diet. Like it's a reward. It's an award to eat a hamburger. And I think if that's how you're going to look at a food item, of course it's going to grow until you want this better. You want the experience to grow. And, I've been eating hamburgers for 4 decades. I'm not bored yet, but for me, my palate's developed, and I think everybody else is in that same category. And you can tell you have a frozen patty next to a fresh patty, it just doesn't taste the same. I think it's one of those things that once you go fresh, you can't go back,
Love it. George, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it, I think there's a couple things and trends that led into this is taking something that always just seemed simple and easy and people didn't put much thought into it, but then saying that, well, it's simple and easy and we love it, why not put more thought into it? And you had a lot of chefs who would be creating these great meals for their staff meals and their own teams, and they'd all be eating these great burgers all the time at their fine dining restaurants for staff meals. And it's like, why not take that level of experience and cooking skills, which is not that difficult, but it does need some background and basis to put it into, sort of that everyday burger and common food. And that's kind of what we've taken to it. Myself and my partners have more of a fine dining or a full-service restaurant experience and said, we have that knowledge and those skills, and it's not really hard to transcend that down as opposed to starting from the easiest common denominator, which would be a frozen patty, and working up to fine dining. Why not take it and work it backwards?
John, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think they both make great points, and George's comment about the staff meals. I think that a lot of it is just what the availability was out there for burgers, and it's not like people ever stopped buying ground beef and making burgers at home at any point, since the invention of the burger and the proliferation of it around the country. I think it was just what was available. You either had your standard bar burger, which was for a long time just kind of a serviceable, you're going to go out and have a drink or a couple of beers and have a burger and fries, or it was more of a fast food version. And I think some of the more creative kitchens around the country started saying, why don't we put this thing, elevate it a little bit, use some better cuts of meat and grind those in there and a fresh baked bun and see what we get. And I think after a few years of that working its way across some better kitchens in the country, it worked its way down to get all the way to now you got these bars where the chefs are very serious about the products that they're putting out and where they're sourcing everything, and the burgers are delicious, and you can't open a bar or even a neighborhood restaurant without a delicious burger on your menu. Otherwise, you're just not going to succeed, I think.
Go ahead.
You guys brought a good point here about what your comments. And one thing amazing about burgers, you can go to McDonald's, get a burger for $1, or you can go, like Robin said, get a burger for over $100 at other restaurants. But let's talk about a little bit the future of that fast food burger, like the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, the little local guys that are flipping little burgers and fries on the corner. Burgers have gone upstream. Obviously, like you said, every restaurant has burgers. Famous chefs have burger restaurants. What is the fate or the future? Where do you see that I guess original, like the guys that never kind of strayed out of that, they've been a pioneer, I guess, and for a long time in the industry. Where do you see them going? If there is going to be some room for them and keep going in that? George, you want to start us with that?
So if I get that right, the question is like, where do the Burger Kings and McDonald's?
Yes, and the little mom and pops, street corner.
Yeah,
where are they going?
And I think you're going to see them. I think I even heard McDonald's is starting sort of a process where you can build or customize your own burger, and they're trying to figure that out. And as I see, those groups either losing market share or seeing what everyone else is doing or where trends are going, they're going to try to figure out a way to do it. There's cappuccinos at McDonald's now, and as they see all their coffee business going to Starbucks and such. I think there's still going to be a major differentiation in what we all do and what they do. But I think it's inevitable they're going to be dipping their toe into trying to figure that out.
John, you agree? Are they going to trade up and try to nip at your heels on a better burger?
Yeah, I think they absolutely are. I think it's for them. I think it's a lot of it is survival, where they are losing market share. Funny enough, they had this contest in Europe that I was reading about. I think it was in Germany last year, and it was actually called My Burger at McDonald's, and it was a crowdsourcing deal where it was a contest for their customers to create their favorite burger, and they had something like 90,000 entries, and they ended up choosing a top 10, and they made this great social media campaign where they got a ton of hits. But I think it was them kind of throwing a bone out to their customers saying, we don't just have to be the place where you come and get a Big Mac or a $1 cheeseburger. We can customize it for you and take that time, and I think that they have to. But that's never going to be a major part, I think, of the reason why people stop into their stores. I think a lot of it is value and convenience. They're everywhere, and it's consistent, and that's, I think, their business model. I don't know if on their own inside their store people are going to be willing to pay $8 for any kind of a burger meal at a McDonald's, just because that's not who they are, and that's what they haven't really been that since they've opened.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think there's going to be price pressure for sure, because to your point, the whole franchise model is developed around the idea that wherever you go, you get consistency. You may not get the best food, but you're going to know that French fry tastes like that same French fry, whether you're in Paris or, whether you're in Florida somewhere. So I think that model definitely impacts these guys. We have just a few short seconds left before we go into a break. Rev, do you want to weigh in very quickly? Give me maybe a 30-second soundbite.
No, I'm on the same page. I think that these restaurants for the future, they need to know their role. And he's right. They are not about quality. They're about convenience and value. And so if they can get those core values locked into their branding and marketing, they'll be fine. There's still business there.
I agree. And there's always going to be somebody who it's just that dash and crash. They just want something to satisfy their palate for the moment. Doesn't have to be great food. It just has to be convenient food. This is Eric and Robin Gagnon, the Restaurant Brokers. We are talking to some great burger experts on what it is that makes this quintessential American food a classic, as we satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. We will be right back after this short break with more information on this topic. Be sure and weigh in on your ideas on our social media channels.